Okay, so trading today, right? Feels like it's everywhere you turn these days.
It really does.
And it can be a lot, right? Crypto, stocks, bonds. It's like every day there's some new asset blowing up online.
Yeah, it's a lot to wrap your head around.
Which is why this deep dive is perfect timing, actually. Someone sent us this podcast, Trading Today, Types, Benefits, and Future Opportunities. And, well, let's just say we're diving in.
Absolutely. And the podcast actually starts with a really simple definition of trading, buying and selling assets,
Yeah.
which, when you say it like that, doesn't sound too intimidating.
Oh, not at all.
But then they hit you with how much technology's changed things. It's not your grandpa's stock market anymore.
Right. Like, forget stockbrokers. Everyone's on their phones trading instantly. And speaking of this podcast you sent over, it got me thinking about the different trading styles. It's not one size fits all, is it?
Not even close. The podcast lists a bunch. You've got day trading, swing trading, position trading. They even mentioned something called scalping, which honestly sounds a bit intense.
Scalping. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm cut out for that.
Right, like everyone's got their own approach, their own risk tolerance.
That's a really good point. It's like I could never handle making those split-second decisions, like those day traders buying and selling in the blink of an eye.
Totally. It's about finding what works for you.
So different styles, different personalities, but ultimately, what's the upside? I mean, besides the obvious, like hoping to make some money.
Well, yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, the dream is financial independence, right? Being able to control your own destiny.
For sure.
But even if you're not trying to quit your job and become a full-time trader, there are still benefits,
Yeah.
like diversifying your income, for one.
Right, not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
Right.
And the podcast also talks about the learning opportunities. Even if you don't make $1 million trading, the skills you pick up, analyzing markets, managing risk,
Yeah.
that's valuable stuff.
Totally. It's like they say the best investment you can make is in yourself. But I'm curious, what makes trading so relevant right now? I mean, it's not like it's a new thing, so why all the buzz?
It's a good question, and I think the podcast points to a few key factors. For one, the global access we have now is insane. Online platforms, like you probably heard of Robinhood
Yeah.
or eToro,
Yeah.
these platforms have completely changed the game. You don't need to be on Wall Street to get started anymore.
Right. It's like they've democratized trading in a way.
Exactly.
But the podcast also mentions AI and algorithms, which, to be honest, sounds a bit intimidating, like a whole other level.
It is next level, for
Yeah.
sure, but it's also pretty exciting. Think about it. Algorithms can analyze mountains of data in real time, spotting trends and opportunities that we as humans might completely miss.
So even us casual folks could benefit from this AI insight. That's pretty wild. But let's be real, the world feels a little crazy right now. The podcast even mentioned volatile markets, which, given everything going on, makes sense. But what does that actually mean for trading?
Basically, it means both the opportunities and the risks are amplified. Take the pandemic, for example. It completely shook up the markets. Understanding these kinds of swings and knowing how to navigate them is more important than ever.
Makes sense. Speaking of shaking things up, we can't forget about cryptocurrency. I feel like Bitcoin, blockchain, all of that has revolutionized how people think about trading.
Oh, without a doubt. Cryptocurrency has been a game changer. It's got people thinking differently about finance in general. Like even governments are looking at digital currencies now. And then there's this whole decentralized finance movement.
Decentralized finance. Okay, you're going to have to break that one down for me. It sounds a bit like something out of Star Trek.
Yep.
Decentralized finance. Okay, you're going to have to break that one down for me. It sounds a bit like something out of Star Trek.
Yeah, I get that. But it's actually simpler than it sounds. Remember blockchain, the tech behind Bitcoin.
Uh-huh.
So imagine building a whole financial system on top of that. No banks, no middlemen, just peer-to-peer transactions. That's DeFi in a nutshell.
So no more waiting for transactions to clear or paying all those annoying bank fees.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal. But how does this tie back to trading?
Well, DeFi opens up a whole new world of trading opportunities. Think about it. You could be lending and borrowing crypto directly from other people, or trading digital assets that represent things like real estate.
Wow.
Still early days, but the potential is huge.
Like the Wild West of finance, but with digital cowboys.
Right.
Speaking of digital assets, the podcast mentioned something else that caught my eye. Tokenization. What exactly does that even mean?
It's kind of mind-blowing when you really think about it. Essentially, tokenization is like taking a real-world asset, say a famous painting, a building, even a racehorse.
Okay.
And you're dividing it into digital tokens that can then be bought and sold, just like stocks.
So instead of needing like millions to invest in a Picasso, I could buy a tiny piece of it through a token.
Precisely.
That's actually really cool. It makes those kinds of exclusive markets way more accessible.
Exactly. And it's not just about art. Imagine owning a fraction of a solar farm or a piece of commercial real estate. Tokenization could open up a world of possibilities for fractional ownership.
Okay, now I'm really seeing why this whole trading thing is blowing up. But with all this talk about fancy tech and potential profits, are there concerns about like the ethical side of things?
You're right to ask that. Trading does have a bit of a reputation, especially now when there's so much focus on things like sustainability and social impact.
Right.
And the podcast actually touches on this too, highlighting the rise of ESG investing.
ESG investing.
Yeah, it stands for environmental, social, and governance.
Okay, fill me in.
It's about aligning your investments with your values. So instead of just chasing the biggest profits, you're also thinking about the environmental and social impact of the companies you're investing in.
So it's like voting with your dollars,
Mm.
supporting companies that are actually doing good in the world.
Exactly.
Makes sense. But with all this innovation happening so fast, are regulators even keeping up? It's like the Wild West out there, especially with all this new tech. Are regulators even equipped to handle it all?
It's a good question. I mean, the pace of innovation in trading is incredible, and regulators are definitely playing catch up. But you know what? Increased regulation isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
It can actually make the market more stable, more trustworthy, and that attracts more investors in the long run.
That's a good point. It's all about finding that balance, right?
Exactly.
Between allowing for innovation, but also protecting investors, especially newcomers who might not, be aware of all the risk.
It's like building a house, right? You need that solid foundation to support all the
Sure.
exciting features you want to add on top.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, the future of trading is kind of this fascinating mix of cutting-edge tech, greater accessibility for everyday investors, and this growing focus on ethical considerations. It's a far cry from that old image of Wall Street fat cats, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it such an exciting time to be involved in markets.
This whole deep dive has been a wild ride. I mean, we've covered everything from the basics of trading styles to DeFi and tokenization. It's amazing how much the trading landscape is changing.
It really is. And you know what? This podcast you sent over did a great job of breaking it all down.
Zephyr.
We've explored the different types of trading, the impact of technology, the ethical considerations. What were your biggest takeaways?
Honestly, what really blew me away is how accessible trading has become. Like, it's not this exclusive club for the wealthy anymore. With the right knowledge and the right tools, anyone can participate.
And that, I think, is a really powerful shift. It speaks to the democratizing force of technology, not just in finance, but in so many aspects of our lives.
This deep dive has definitely given me, and hopefully all of you listening, a lot to think about. Whether you're already an active trader or just starting to explore the market, one thing's for sure. Trading today is more dynamic and more accessible than ever before. So stay curious, do your research, and who knows, maybe you'll find your own path to financial success.